Okay, welcome to the show. This is Ted Talks Too Much. And I think we've got another great one for you today. I am Ted Moss, ex-paperboy, stand-up comedian, and your host. We are located in the OK Boomer Studios, just outside of Flint, Michigan. That's right, Flint. Michigan's water wonderland, where they are still wondering when they'll get some clean water. But while we all wait for that to happen, let's talk. And today we've got a guest who had a perfect childhood, turned into a biker, studied clinical psychology, and somehow that all morphed into becoming a stand-up comedian. Yeah, we're going to have Tom E Thompson tell us how that happened right after this. We are looking for a few good men. That's right, men. And boy, oh boy, are there some perky perks. Have you ever thought a man's rectory is a place you want to be? Have you ever seen people rise when a bride in a long white dress passes by and think, I want to be her? If dirty stories are your thing, better than Penthouse Forum, we've got a quorum. And they're lined up to tell you true stories in person. That's right. You could be the professional in the confessional, where you can listen and no one can see your hands. Just contact us at Holy Joe's Super Seminary, where you never lose your job, because we specialize in transferring trouble. Or just go to surroundmewithboysanddresses.com, where you can apply today. Okay, on the show today, we got one of the hardest working guys in stand-up comedy. He'd be out there doing shows, who knows, 4, 5, 6, 7 days a week if it wasn't for this virus. I think we're lucky to have him on the show. He's going to explain how he went from an idyllic childhood to a stand-up comedian. He's got one of the biggest smiles of anybody in the business. Give it up for my good friend, Mr. Tom E Thompson. Hey, Tommy.
Hey, Ted. Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad to have you on the show. We've been trying to do this for a while.
Yeah. I had this damn corona.
Yeah. You were on the road for a while. We were talking about it. And then when you came back, everybody got sick, and you decided you couldn't go anyplace.
Yeah. My wife works in the medical field, and she hasn't, as far as I know, she hasn't come in direct contact with it, but just in case, they probably have at some point, but they're just, there's no absolute yet, or hopefully not at all.
Right.
We'll see.
Right. Well, what is she? Is she a nurse or a doctor, or what is she?
Oh, she runs a medical clinic out in Flint for a group of doctors.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I hope she stays well. It's just dangerous to be out there in groups of people, but you need the medical people out there. So I don't know what else she's going to do but go to work.
That's right. That's what they're doing, and she's very positive about it and keeping the family positive. And so it's as good as it can be.
Now, we know each other from doing stand-up comedy together, but I'd love to hear a little bit about your background and where you came from. You grew up, just a little bit north of Flint, right?
Yeah, I grew up in Clio, and then in a neighborhood that was amazing. It was pretty much, if you've seen the movie The Sandlot, that was my childhood. We had about 15 kids about the same age, in a three street neighborhood that all connected to each other. So we're always jumping fences and hanging out every night, and hide and go seek every night, and sports every day. So it was definitely an idyllic childhood. And then when I was 11, my parents decided that we're going to move to the country, so we moved out to Montrose, and they bought some land out here. So it's I got the best of both worlds. I think I was a suburban kid and then kind of a country boy.
Yeah. Well, when you were growing up in Clio, what years was that? In the 70s?
No, I was born in 82. Yeah, I know my beard looks otherwise. I know you can't see me.
Well, dude, I was born in the 50s, so what? Don't feel bad. 70s is young to me.
Yeah. No, I was born in 82, so we lived in Clio until 1993, and I started fifth grade out in Montrose, which was close enough to where my friends from the neighborhood would still come over on the weekends, and their parents would still babysit me. So I was still always in the neighborhood anyway, so it worked out really good.
Right. Did you always feel like Clio and Montrose were both distant suburbs of Flint, or did you really feel like you were disconnected from Flint?
I would say the suburbs. I mean, that's where we would go, to the mall, and my dad was General Motors, and I was General Motors for a while and stuff. So, I mean, there was, and a lot of my family was from Flint. I think you were originally from Flint as well, correct?
Yeah, I grew up inner city Flint on the north side and actually lived in the city until junior high. And after my sister's second year in Emerson, which was a really tough junior high, my parents thought that was enough for her. I don't know that they were concerned about me, but they thought they ought to get her out of there. So we moved out to Burton, which is really, Flint light. It's kind of like Flint with dirt roads.
Right.
just lower class than Flint, if you can imagine that. That's where we moved to. So.
Yeah, so my parents were, they were Northwestern and Northern, which is, right in the city schools. I think you were Northwestern as well.
Yeah. Well, whereabouts did they live? Maybe I know. How old are your parents?
My dad graduated in 1974, and my mom was 1977.
Oh,
and
wow.
my dad grew up on DuPont, mainly.
Yeah.
Welch Boulevard and DuPont.
Yeah.
I think he lived on Fleming Road for a while. My mom was Dartmouth and then Atherton Terrace.
Okay.
So Civic Park area.
Yeah. I was probably closer to your dad. I was by Merrill Elementary School, which was kind of Fleming and Stewart, or Fleming and Pasadena, kind of in that area, near the Northwest Shopping Center, kind of up in that area. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
and then they had their first jobs were in Flint. My mom was the A&W, one of the takeout girls, and that's how they met. My dad worked at Hamity before he went to the shop. So
now, which A&W was she at?
She was at Clio Road.
Are you kidding me? That's so cool. That's where I had my very first date.
Well, there you go. That's how my parents met. That's funny. That my mom served my dad and his buddy food, and they were driving away, and my dad had made a comment about how he liked my mom, and so the guy driving turned around and made him ask her out. So
wow, that's
awesome.
awesome.
Talked him into asking her out. So yeah.
Well, way back in those days, there was actually a cruise. Kids didn't have anything to do, so you get in your parents' car or your car if you're lucky enough to have one, and you just cruise the highways. Well, the cruise was through A&W's parking lot, down the road to Burger King, through their parking lot, and back. And then you'd make some other little pit stops, and we'd go down by the shop and holler at the hookers and stuff. But basically, that was the cruise. And then in 1970 or 71, the shopping center across from the A&W became the hangout because they were kicking people out of the A&W. And we had hundreds and hundreds of cars every night parked in that parking lot. I mean, maybe even 1,000 cars. And eventually the cops broke it up.
Yeah, my parents talk about that a lot. Still, some of their best friends to this day, they met at Burger King in A&W.
Yeah.
They do talk a lot about the Burger King. They talk about the plaza there.
Yeah.
The mall parking lot.
Yeah.
My parents had a car club in the 70s, into the 80s, and even into the 90s, we would still cruise. I mean, I grew up in the back seat of a Chevy Nomad, 1955 Chevrolet Nomad. I mean, that was my Friday and Saturday nights was listening to Oldies 96 and cruising a lot through Frankenmuth then, because, Flint was kind of rough in the 90s. So we went through Frankenmuth, and they still cruised in Frankenmuth. I mean, Friday and Saturday nights in Frankenmuth, you park into a park spot. I'm talking about 1991, 92, maybe up to like 95. And you would see a lot of old cars going by, and my parents' car club would meet up there. They were called the Loose Nut. And so, they're kind of like, I'm sure you've seen the movie The Hollywood Night.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And in American Graffiti, and that was kind of like kind of like my childhood was like, you know, my parents weren't, of course, getting into trouble then because they all had kids, but I'm sure they were a lot like the Hollywood Nights in the 70s, you know, and 80s. So,
well, it sounds like you almost had a throwback childhood. Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, so that was a lot of fun, and I mean, it definitely had a lot of good times. My dad's always had a hot rod or two, and motorcycles and stuff like that. So it was a lot of fun.
Well, he worked for General Motors, and you grew up and you started working for General Motors also, which, you know, a lot of people in the Flint area do. Is that correct?
Yeah. My mom worked at BG's Food Center for 30 years. So my first job was when I turned 16. I worked there, and then my dad got into GM when I was like 22, maybe 23, and I was just I knew right away it wasn't for me, and I respect everybody. I have a lot of family members that did it, and of course, I mean, my dad worked hard there for years and gave a good life to me and my brother and my mom and stuff. So.
Now, what did he do? Did he work hourly, or did he was he a maintenance guy, or what did he do at General Motors? Do you know?
No, he was production. He wanted to stay production because I guess back in the 70s when you first hired in, you would get a month off for changeover. Now it's only 2 weeks, I believe, but in the summer, and his brother lived in San Diego. So every year my dad was just out in San Diego for a month.
Awesome.
You know,
that's awesome. Yeah.
You know, up until we had the kids, and then we would go to like a car show or something. You know, we're always up in the St. Ignace car shows, and every Sunday was a car show anyway.
Oh, that's really cool.
That was cruising, so.
I was going to say, when I hired into General Motors, I got on supervision after 90 days. And what I didn't realize is I lost all my rights not to work when I didn't want to. Overtime was no longer optional. The shift I was on was no longer optional. The department I was in was no longer optional. You just have absolutely no rights on supervision.
Yeah, I think that was another thing that was. He just said, you know, he wanted to go in there, and he had a lot of, you know, he's always been good at making friends and keeping himself busy. So, you know, he wrote a lot. He was also a DJ in the 80s and 90s too. Him and my mom would DJ weddings and parties and whatnot. So he would work on that a lot through the week, you know, as much as he could while he was there. But I got in there and I was just like, oh, I can't do this. I had fun from 6 a.m. till 10 a.m. because that's when the Bob and Tom show was on.
Right.
And I learned very quickly at 10:01, Bob and Tom would go away, and so would all my laughter. And I would hate it until, you know, 3 o'clock.
Yeah, so. I didn't care for it either. So somehow you ended up getting a degree in clinical psychology. Is that right?
Yeah. I told my parents, I said, you know, I told them, I said, I'm not sticking in GM. So I left GM, and I promised myself that I would do something, you know, and comedy was definitely the goal. But I wanted to do something along with it. And so, as I was first starting out in comedy, I started going to school, and I had went on and off when I was in GM and before GM, you know, and just school got in the way of the bar. You know,
yeah,
so
exactly.
I would go a semester or two, and I always got good grades. I mean, I ended up graduating with honors and stuff, but it took me, I didn't get my degree until like 2015 or something, and I started going in 2001.
Yeah.
But yeah, I eventually got my clinical psychology degree, and then comedy started kind of picking up, and, you know, I got with my wife, and I told her on our first date, you know, that, you know, comedy is my big passion, and she's been awesome and supportive of it. And kind of works out, you know, I sub-teach. Of course, I can't sub-teach right now. And then I work at a HarleyDavidson dealership in the summer months, kind of like when they need me and I need them.
Right. So well, hang on. Now, how did you know you wanted to do comedy, and when did you know that?
Well, that's an excellent question. When I turned 18, I started kind of going with my parents. My dad was the opening act for an Elvis tribute artist.
Really?
And yeah, his name's Leo Days. He was originally out of Davison, Burton area, and when he was still in Michigan, my parents would travel around with him. My mom ran his fan club, and my dad was his personal MC, I guess you would call him. And so my dad would start the show, welcome everybody, and tell a couple jokes about a 5-minute set. And
Right.
then when Leo would change from the 50s to the 70s Elvis, my dad would go up and do about a 7 to 10 minute
Oh,
set.
yeah, just giving him
And-
time to change, so he's entertaining people.
Yeah, and I just saw that, and I was like, wow, that's I want to do that, you know. I was like,
Yeah.
wow, that looks amazing, you know. I mean, holy crap, you know. And so I signed up at Connections Comedy Club in Lansing, and I went out and I did it. Well, me and my friend, you're from Fenton, is that right?
Well,
Does you live in Fenton?
that's where I live now. Yeah.
Well, Snappers there in Argentine. There's a bar
Yeah.
there, Snappers, for people that are listening around the globe.
Yeah.
In Argentine, Michigan, there's a Snappers on the Water. They used to do comedy every Tuesday night. So me and once I saw my dad start doing it, and I was like, wow, I really want to get into this. So I used to go every Tuesday night and just watch.
And how old were you at this time?
I had just gotten out of GM. This is 2010, so like 26, 27.
Okay.
Yeah, and so about 10 years ago. So yeah, 26, 27, and so I started comedy then. Actually, tomorrow will be my 10-year anniversary from going to Connections and
Cool.
and
Happy anniversary.
doing a
You can't
contest.
perform for anybody now.
right. I am doing Melissa, a past guest that you had on the show. She's having me on one of her
Awesome.
virtual shows on Friday night.
Yes.
So.
What does she call that? Is that still her comedy series? Is that what she's calling it when it's online?
Yeah, comedy series, virtual comedy show, something along the lines of that. But yeah, if people are interested,
people
in
should check that out because they can get that anywhere because it's online. Right.
Yeah, it's through the Zoom app. And then I think there's. She also said if you don't have Zoom, you can also like follow a link in the event description there, and it will pull it up on your computer. So,
you know what? I've been talking to a lot of people for a long time that I think comedy is going to change, that the path is going to be different, and this this virus is kind of forcing that. But historically, we've done comedy at bars and then at clubs, and then hopefully you get a spot on the Tonight Show or something, and then a third party all the way has to see you and say, I can make money off you, whether it's a promoter or somebody that owns a bar. There's always got to be an outside person that says, you're funny, I can take you and I can make money, you'll make some or whatever. And the artist has never really had a lot of profit directly from the comedy. It's a secondary thing. And I think with the internet, there's going to be a way going forward where comedians are going to be the primary person making money or revenue off their comedy. And I don't know what that's going to look like. And it might look like Zoom shows. I don't know. But I've been talking to people about this for about a year that I think this art is evolving and there's going to be a new way to monetize comedy and for the artist to get paid instead of the bartender or the promoter or the guy that puts the show together to get paid.
Right. And that's the thing too. Like, I've heard people, it's funny you bring that up because I've heard comedians over my 10 years, bitch about, sorry, I don't know if we can swear on this, but.
Yeah, you can fucking swear all you want, Tommy. Just go ahead. You just be you. I'm good with it, dude. We grew up in the Flint area. Fuck this shit. Just say what you want to say. It's okay.
Bitch about agencies and stuff, and it's like, man, if you don't think that they're all making money out.
Well, that's why they're in business. Yes.
Right. Because he's making more money, blah blah. It's like, don't even worry about that side. I mean, because if you're worried about that side, then you're already taking focus off what you should be worrying about. I think, which is making owning your craft.
Yeah.
But yeah, I watched the Zoom show. My friend Matt Holt, a very good friend of mine that's in Frankfort, Kentucky, and he's been very good to me. Very, very good stand-up, 20 years plus in the business, and he's got me into a lot of those agencies and been very helpful to me. He did a Zoom show last Thursday, and I watched it, and it was really neat. He's kind of like how I am, where especially if I'm headlining, I'm gonna do a lot with the crowd. I'm gonna do a lot of high fives. I'm gonna not necessarily crowd work. I do have some crowd work, but it usually leads into jokes and everything. But I like it to be very interactive. So the Zoom thing is going to be the virtual comedy thing is going to be very weird to me because although you can hear and see them somewhat, you can't really, the intimacy I think is kind of gone.
Are there pictures of the people watching on the screen where you can actually see them and see them react to what you're saying?
There are, if they choose to. There's when I watch Matt, I downloaded the Zoom app on my phone, and it plugged me into it, and I had my microphone turned on, but I didn't turn my video on. So if you don't turn your video on, then they can't see you. But there were so many people watching that it's just a bunch of little tiny boxes. It was kind of hard to see. I mean, if you got the phone right up to your face, you could see them just fine. So it's gonna be different. I think it's gonna be at worst it's gonna be a great learning experience. So,
yeah, I think it might be cool if you had a big screen at home and you had everybody's face on it, and you could see their faces and see them laugh. And maybe they would put their name underneath their face. And so you could say, hey, Tommy, what are you doing? Or hey, Billy, or whatever. And you could actually talk to them directly. And it'd be nice if everybody could see everybody, and so you could interact.
Yeah, it does have the names of the people. Some of them said like Ron's iPad or something. But, you know, like mine said, you know, Tommy, whatever name you signed up on the you had to put in a name to join. So
on the app,
it did have your name there.
Cool.
But on the phone, it had a bunch of little dots on the bottom, and you just click the next dot, and it will show you like a next row of people.
Oh, okay.
And then and then you could go back and forth. So
that's cool.
It was interesting. It's definitely the best of what we can do right now, I guess.
Well, you know what? I think that's going to evolve, and I think that's going to be the way comics are going to make money off their comedy, and instead of 80% going to the promoters, because I have always hated to see comics selling merch. I always see somebody walk out on stage. I kind of put them in this lofty place in my head. There's kind of a mini star or a local star. And next thing you know, the man's standing outside selling T-shirts so he can make an extra $5. And I'm thinking, God, that's not good. You might have a fan club and they'd sell it for you. But if you have to do that, apparently you aren't getting paid or you aren't that good or something. It just brings them down in my head. I don't like the whole merch thing. If you have a fan club that sets up and sells your stuff, that's cool. And you get a percentage off the fact they're selling it. That'd be one thing. But the way these guys, I got little plastic bracelets I sell. And by the way, here's a clever punchline on this T-shirt. I just think it diminishes the value of the comic. I would like to think that the artists are above this. Think about it. You have to be creative. You have to be a writer. You have to be a performer. You have to be a director. You have to do all these things. You shouldn't be a T-shirt salesman at the end of the night.
I do it. But
everybody does. I get it.
I have a dissonance with it. Sometimes I don't even set up, because especially if I've had a really good set, I'll mention it quick on stage. I try to throw it in when I do a joke and stuff. Of course, if I'm emceeing or if I'm doing a guest spot, no, never. It's always just if I'm featuring or headlining. But it can be weird. It can be weird.
Well,
it feels weird. I talk about it on stage. I say, look, hey, this is just,
Well, you shouldn't have
really
to.
like me,
you know what? If they were paying you $1,000 a night, you wouldn't be selling T-shirts. You wouldn't care if you made an extra $30 walking out the door. If you're selling T-shirts and stuff, you put an extra $30 to $50 in your pot. Okay, that shouldn't matter. If they're paying you $1,000 a night, you're good. You got 2-3 nights a week, you're good. You're making a living. You're an artist. That's where it should be. But the problem is, they're making $1,000 a night. You aren't getting it, though. They're selling beer, and that's very profitable. They're selling booze, and that's very profitable. They're selling tickets, and that's very profitable. But all this profit is going to people that are not the person that's creating the art that's drawing the people in. My point is not that it's a bad thing to do. Everybody should be doing it. Everybody should be making as much money as possible, and I'm okay with it. My problem is that the art should come first, and it should be paid well enough. It should be monetized to the point where you don't have to do that. You don't even want to do that. To get an extra $30 to pay for your gas to make it to the next town, that's not the level you should be at. If you're able to write comedy and prepare comedy and perform comedy and show up on time and be professional about it, you shouldn't be worried about an extra $30 to $50. It shouldn't be making your day.
Right. Right. In the South, yeah, you should start an agency, Ted.
Come get your
90%
money.
of Ted's-
Yeah. Well, yeah. Hey, they've done this to singers, performers forever. I mean, you remember that girls group that went around and went on tour and they did the song about chasing waterfalls or something, the black group with the one-eyed girl.
TLC.
Yeah.
TLC.
Yeah. After their big tour, when they had a hit record, they went back home. They had like no freaking money, nothing. You know, it happened to the pop group out of Flint. Same, no money. My son had a record deal, no money. People are getting paid, but the artist isn't getting paid. Well, you know, without the artist, you don't have a show. You got an empty room with a microphone and a light. Yeah, that doesn't pay you any money. The guy that's bringing in the customers should be getting paid. Unfortunately, this is the way entertainment has evolved and developed. But with the advent of the internet, that's going to change. And the artist, instead of getting 15% of the profits or 10 or 5% of the profits, should be getting 80, 90% of the profits.
Yeah, it's like socialism, right?
No, don't get me on that, dude. You don't want to go there with me. Oh God,
this is like the big pharma healthcare argument, right?
No, I think it's capitalism. I'm saying start your own business and you make the money instead of paying a third party. Yeah, exactly. Hey, I want to talk to you about being a biker.
Yeah. Okay. That was a fun period.
That's quite a segue, isn't it? Get your money and be a biker. Sell some drugs. Now we can talk about selling meth or something.
I never got into. Definitely wasn't a 1%er or anything like that. I was a rule follower. What a crazy tough guy I was. When I was 5 years old, my dad came home with a mini bike, and I have the picture. Sometimes I put it up as my Facebook picture or my Facebook cover photo because it's a funny picture. I think I was probably 7 in the picture, but I'm leaning over my mini bike, and I have my fake tattoo on my arm and stuff. It was just something funny that me and my dad set up, and just as a joke. But I always liked the picture. But he brought it home when I was 5, and it was the funny thing was that my brother was 2.5, and my dad loves to tell this story that I'm riding it around the backyard. My brother's pulling on my dad's pant leg, saying, "I can do that, I can do that." And sure enough, he got on it that day, and he started riding it
at 2.5.
So
before he's 3 years old.
2.5 years old, yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, I was 2.5 years old, and he told my dad he could do it, and he did it. And we always had motorcycles, dirt bikes after that. And then when I turned 18 or 19, my dad just came across a really good deal on a Suzuki street bike.
Yeah.
And he had a couple bikes at the time, so that's when I started riding on the street and growing my hair long, and went to a few, motorcycle rallies. I was really into it for a few years. I mean, I had my leather vest and my long hair and my bandana everywhere I went, but it was funny because I still had the big shit-eating grin on my face.
You are always smiling, dude. You got a funny smile for a biker, I'll tell you that. You can have a lot of bugs in your teeth.
So it was funny. It was just something I was really into for a lot of years, and then when I got with my wife and my stepkids, who I just treat as my regular kids. I mean, they're my daughters, but I mean, technically speaking, they're my stepdaughters. So I started riding a little less.
Yeah.
Started making me think more about life, more about like, hey, maybe. And the comedy started picking up too. So I was like, you know what? I don't want to be in the hospital,
right,
and miss all these shows or whatever. So I kind of got away from it. Then my parents got hit. 2 years ago, I got a call. I was actually working at the Harley dealership. It was in the summer, and I got a call from my dad, and he was telling me that they're in the hospital. So they spent a month in the hospital. They got hit on their bike. Both good now.
Oh no, man!
But yeah, they spent a month in the hospital, and it was crazy for a while there. And so we were driving out to Lapeer every day and seeing them and help. But I mean, recovered now and doing well. But
was it one of those things where somebody pulled out in front of them?
It was they were actually turning left up in the thumb of Michigan, and people aren't familiar with the thumb of Michigan. It's very rural, country, a lot of farms and stuff. So they were turning left. There was a car behind them, and there was a motorcycle behind that car. And so my dad turned left, and that apparently the motorcycle behind the car didn't, like, he went around. He didn't see my parents in front of that car. So he whipped around that car because it started slowing down, and he broadside of my parents on the left side.
No.
Because he was trying to pass the car. So he didn't see my parents up in front of the car.
A biker hit him. That's so weird.
Yeah, it was a bike on bike.
That's really weird. Usually it is that people pull out in front of you because they don't notice you. And I've almost done it too. It's kind of like as you come to a stop sign, you're looking for big boxes coming down the road. And if it's just one little light, it doesn't really register in your mind unless you're really thinking about it. And a lot of people pull out in front of you. It's kind of a weird thing.
Yeah, it's silly. I had a guy pull out in front of me one time, and he was so upset, and he pulled up next to me on the road, and we were going pretty slow, and I think he was almost in tears, and I was just like, hey man, it happens, you just didn't see me. I understand. We're a little, especially if we're going 55, 60 down a back road, and there's a guy waiting at a stop sign. It's so easy to look past us. So
I was going to say, I've had a bike since I was 14. I worked a paper out for a year to save up $125 to buy my first Harley, and I've had motorcycles. I've got a Harley in my garage right now, but I've always had bikes, and I've always ridden. And so I've always been cognizant of bikes on the road. But there's just something about your psyche. We all drive kind of on autopilot. We really aren't thinking real actively about what's going on because we've done it so many times. And it's just you are not looking for bikes. You're looking for cars. And for some reason, it just doesn't register. And almost, not every time, but at least half the times I've ridden, somebody has started to pull out in front of me. Sometimes they start and stop. Sometimes they actually pull out. Yeah. But you have to drive defensively. Otherwise, you're going to hit somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, my dad taught me right away. He said, always assume they don't see you. Always assume they don't see you. And I think that's gotten me out of a lot of, there was a time me and my dad were going down a back road and on our bikes, and a lady was just barrel assing out of her driveway. Didn't even stop. And we had I went up through the ditch, and I think my dad went through the ditch or close. Maybe he made it around in the road still, and I went through the ditch, and I came back up, and we both made it, and I was like, yeah, we made it. But my dad chased her down and kind of gave her a what for a little bit.
Well, it's deadly.
She didn't even stop. She just
deadly.
People, I don't know. I don't think anybody ever does it maliciously. At least I would hope not. But
now, you used to work at a Harley dealership. Which one?
Yeah. Actually, I worked at the Flint one for a while at Vanceville City. Funny story about that. I worked there twice, and I left there. When I left GM and I went to get my clinical psychology degree, and I started doing comedy. I started working at BD's Mongolian Barbecue, which they're all over the nation now, and they're my favorite restaurant. And they had one in Flint, so I worked there. That was where I worked to be able to have that flexibility to go to school and do open mics and stuff. And for some reason, somebody told me I should go sell motorcycles. I was riding my motorcycle to work every day, having fun. And so I did. I went down to the Harley shop. And they said, well, we'll put you on the sport bike side and they sold 4-wheelers and all everything but Harleys in the building next to it. Right. So I worked there for a while, and man, there's something about sales that I like, but I just don't have a passion for. And I think I'm good at it just because I like talking to people and I'm honest, and I just love people.
Yeah, I think that's key.
So I'm good at selling, but I don't have a passion for it.
Right.
So I did it for a couple of years, and I'm just like, you know what? Nah. And I just went back and put more hours in at the restaurant. And then the Harley place called me again in Flint and said, listen, we'll bring you back. We want you to come back. We want you to go on the Harley side. You'll make more money, but you'll have to work Monday through Sunday. And you'll have 1 to 2 days off a week. Right. And I told them right then and there, I said, listen, the first time a club calls me to come and go, I'm leaving. You guys, I'm telling you right now, I'll come, I'll work my ass off. But if comedy calls me and says, hey, we want you Thursday through Saturday night, I'm going. Right. And they said, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. And I worked about a year, and then I started getting offers from clubs, and then the first major offer I got was from Crackers in Indiana.
Right.
And I went and told my boss, and it was like a month before even, and it was good money. They were giving me a hotel, free food, free drink, whatever. Maybe I had to pay for food, but free drinks. And,
a good weekend gig.
Like, this is the first time I'm actually going out on the road, and I told my boss, and she said, "You're not going." And I said, "Oh, yes, I am." And she said, "No, you're not." And well, I went. And when I came back, there was a new guy there, and I think it was about 2 or 3 more days. They said, "Yeah, you're out of here." And so I called the Harley shop up 20 minutes up the road from my desk before I left, the one in Flint, and they hired me over the phone, and they've been great with me. I told them the same thing. I said, "Hey, I'm gonna have to come and go. I'll work my ass off when I'm here in town and when I'm not." And they really, this has been 3 years now, and they've been great with me. And they kind of use me as part-time and as needed. Like during the winters, I don't even work at all.
What's the name of that place?
Around May. That's Shiawassee Sports Center. So they sell Harleys and then Polaris Rangers and Polaris ATVs.
Yeah, I know. I know the owners of Shiawassee. They used to be out on M13.
Yes. Yeah. I think it's different owners now.
Who
I don't
owns
know if
it
you know
now?
the new owner. His name's Ken. I don't know. I'm not sure of his last name. I don't think he's had it very long.
Okay.
Just a few years, I think.
Yeah,
But
I knew it when
right,
they were
used
down
to
at
be.
the other place, and then when they moved up, I knew the guys, and I knew everybody that worked there because I had a Harley, and I was in there all the time buying stuff and having my bike worked on or whatever. And I liked those guys better than the other dealership. The other one at the time was Cummings, which was downtown Flint on Saginaw. And that belonged to Bert Cummings, who actually won the Jackrabbit Run back in the 30s or 40s. So he was awarded the right to have a dealership. And then his sons, I went to school with. And they had bikes
Tom,
about...
was that his name?
Yeah, one was Tom, and I can't remember the other brother's name. He died. I think he was an alcoholic, and he died alcohol-related. But then Tom eventually ran it, and they moved it out to Davison Road, Davison Belsey. Yep. And and I think they're out of business now, aren't they?
No. They moved. Vehicle City bought them, and that's what's called Vehicle City HarleyDavidson. So kind of out of business.
Okay.
Well, then they moved to Miller in '69.
Is that what it is?
Right
okay.
there,
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where I worked. I worked for Vehicle City. And I don't have anything bad to say about the people that work there. There's a lot of good guys that still work there. And they just, I understand they wanted people to be full-time workers. And I told them I'm not, as soon as the club calls, And Shiawassee has been great with me. Like I said, I didn't work the past 3 winters. I was gone from November to May.
That's awesome.
And then around May, they just let me work a couple weeks ago. I got home from, I was out in Iowa and then Minnesota, and Minnesota was the 13th and 14th, and that was my last 2 shows. So I got home on the 15th of March here, and of course, then the school shut down and everything, so I couldn't go back to sub-teaching. So I called my boss at Harley, and I said, "Is there any way I can work?" And he said, "Well, we can take you Friday, Saturday, Sunday this week." And I said, "Well, that's better than nothing."
Yeah.
And so they took me Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then so they've been really good. We'll see. I'm kind of nervous about like this summer. We'll see when this thing blows over. But I shouldn't say blows over. But I don't want to sound inconsiderate because I realize it's serious and everything.
No.
I'm very
Eventually we're going to move out of it somehow, some way.
Yeah.
So
I'm very positive and I'm very optimistic about everything. Yeah. So it's hard, but I understand the seriousness of it, and it is scary to a certain effect. But I'm getting a lot of, like this past weekend, I was supposed to headline like a haunted bed and breakfast in Indiana.
Oh.
I was supposed to be down. And then this Thursday through Sunday, I was supposed to be at a club in Ohio with Dave Landau, who's my all-time favorite.
Yeah, Dave is great.
Dave's a great comedian. And then me and Dave are going to Arkansas in June. I'm going back to Crackers at the end of May. I got the Holly Hotel coming up. Well, all these things are, getting postponed
Well, they're
or
all
possibly
pending,
getting
yeah.
postponed. So when Harley needs me in June and July, I feel like I'm going to be making up these, up these club dates. So that might get a little tricky, but the guys have always pulled through, and I definitely bust my ass Monday through Wednesday or whatever, to be there.
All right. Sounds like that's going to be it for the day, you guys. I want to thank Tom E Thompson for being my guest today. We've got a lot more to say, so we'll have a Tommy part 2. And if you want to contact me, you can always send an email to tedtalks2much@yahoo.com. That's with the number 2. I started a new YouTube channel that's out there. Has all the interviews and all the previews and some tour videos. Go to YouTube to Ted Talks Too Much. But in any case, we're going to get out of here for the day. I want to wish you well. Tell you people out there, stay safe, be kind, and just try to be happy. I'm Ted Moss, and those are my thoughts.